Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm going to just tell you what I think is a basic real truth, a non-political truth, though it's sort of ultra-political. It affects both sides. Everybody's going to be to blame to a certain degree or whatnot. Um, so in a way, it's non-political. I'm not focusing on the blame of one side or the other, or even the details of the blame, but you'll see what I mean. So basically, as far as that goes, our system is not set up to handle this kind of a crisis. I mean, I guess that's obvious to everybody. It's one of the reasons we have, what, a third of the world's deaths. Well, we don't have a third of the population, okay? So you can tell from results how well you're doing sometimes. And this is one of those times, a thing like this. And our system is not set up for it. So all of the leaders, the mayors and health officials and governors and president, they're all gonna find they have a problem, all these executives specifically, because our system isn't prepared with expertise how to handle this. They're expected to have the ingenuity and the sense themselves, like experts in everything, which means that they have to have contacts or a concept of how to get the experts and in a way, at least enough knowledge to figure out which experts aren't full of shit. And then they have to make some guesses. In a situation like this, since it's all left to their discretion, you know, they're just going to have to make an educated guess. And a lot of them are the type of people, that you have around or whatever. People are this way. This is the way people are, going with their gut. Now, the positive side of our system is there's so many elected executives at all of these levels that we're going to see how the results are. Some people decide this, some people decide that, and I'm not prejudging or guessing which one's going to succeed. However, there is an issue of when it's all said and done, people are going to be held to blame. Now, that's going to happen even if we had the lowest deaths in the world. But with it being the highest, it's for sure going to happen. But in either case, people are going to come and say, well, how could it have been? They're going to judge after the fact. It's like, that's not fair. If you couldn't decide, Piero, what to do, how could you blame? Well, because it's their job. That's luckily, this is one of the times it's lucky it's not my job. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's nice for it to be lucky that it's not my job, but that doesn't mean they're blameless because I couldn't figure out the solution. They're the ones that have access to hire or already existing contacts that they should have with experts, with professors in their state university system, and so on. I'm lucky that I didn't have that job. I'm not getting judged by how I decide to manage the state of Maine. But the people managing the state of Maine are going to be, and that's good. That's one of the silver linings of having this system that wasn't set up for this is there's freedom for a lot of people to handle it different ways within parameters, and within those parameters, we'll be able to learn a lot about how well different things worked. Okay, so the system is not set up uh, to be the best in the world at solving this kind of crisis, but it is set up pretty well to figure out where the blame's going to lie. But we don't know now. That's why it's not that useful to blame right now. We are going to know over the next few years and in the long run from statistics and is that right? Investigative biology? I guess investigative. But these people, at the federal level, at the state level, not necessarily all the mayors or county councils, but all the governors and up, they have access to the world's leading experts in this country. Even a governor of a small state has access to some pretty amazing experts, but you still have to know which ones to trust. So if you don't know that, well, it turns out you're not that good at your job. Oh, but Piero, if you didn't know what to do, you also aren't good at that job. Yeah, but I don't have that job. So that's the difference there. Now, right now, we should just use the guidelines that are created, like the Trump administration. They came out with guidelines. He's making weird noises about, celebrating, fighting the guidelines, his own guidelines. Fight them. You can stand up, Second Amendment. And it seems like the people in Michigan have listened. But regardless, we have to rely on the system. We need a coordinated effort, and those guidelines, did take expert opinion into account, obviously. So we follow those for better or worse. That doesn't mean by my endorsing following the federal guidelines that have been developed by people that have access to the data and education and a full-time ability to pay attention to it, doesn't mean that I can't judge or blame afterwards. If those guidelines are fucked up and we figure that out 2 or 3 years from now, we can dig into it. We can blame people and we can at least feel required to alter how we, do things. So, it's bad news for people that don't want to have to take responsibility. It's like, it's not my fault this happened. Yeah, no shit. It's not this president's fault that that war happened. Usually they are the president's fault. Well, whatever. Um, it's your job to be there because these emergencies happen. Floods, you get a hurricane, you get trouble, an attack on a base, you get all of these things, they happen, and you're supposed to handle them. So you are going to be judged by it afterwards. And, it doesn't mean you're a bad person if it turns out that you weren't up to some crisis. And if the crisis was random and intense, then it doesn't mean that you're not, can't be held responsible. It's not like a criminal responsibility necessarily, but it can be if you're profiteering or taking part or facilitating or sanctioning any profiteering. So, anyway, that's that. Now, final message for anybody that's watched this long. I imagine it would be useful to mention to you that I'm thinking about streaming in a minute. I want to try to get the Hangouts working with the OBS. Had a little bit of an echo problem the last time we did a test. Going to call it the Illusions Exist stream because we had some good ones of those. So that's the most open topic, episodic, program show that I have. So that's just to keep the topics open. But we can include progress and liberty as a topic and natural philosophy and all the rest. So yeah, I mean, in a way, the first step of this is that there's a blameless interpretation where, look, it's going to be shitty. So you're not blaming someone in the sense that, oh man, it could have been great. No, there was no chance of that. On the other hand, you can say, look, we hired you to be the fire department. You failed to put out the fire. Oh, nobody could have put out the fire. Well, we're going to look into that. We think maybe somebody could have put out the fire, and we want him as our fire chief. All right. Cheers. Adios. Which thing do I stop first? Let's do this one this time.